Welcome back to Taxes Made Simple. I'm your host, Karlton Dennis, and in today's video, we're going to discuss the 5 reasons why you should switch from a sole proprietorship to an LLC. If you're a new business owner, you're going to be taught that the LLC is meant for asset protection, but there are many different reasons why you should think about switching to an LLC. If you're a sole proprietor, maybe you have enjoyed being a sole proprietor, but maybe you thought maybe an LLC could save you money on taxes, or maybe it cannot. I'm here to answer those questions for you today, so let's dive in. All right, guys, so the first thing that we're going to talk about is why would someone go down the road of establishing an LLC? Because we all know that establishing an LLC costs money. There's the yearly filing fees that you have to pay to have an LLC. If you're in a state that has like state taxes and state filing fees, you're also going to have to pay a fee just to have your LLC in that particular state, on top of filing the tax returns for an LLC. Not to mention, there's additional paperwork that's involved with setting up an LLC. So a lot of business owners get a little bit discouraged going down that path, and maybe they just think it's for bigger corporations like McDonald's or Google. If you're somebody that has ever been discouraged to set up an LLC, I want to talk a little bit more about why do people go down this path? What is the purpose of even having these things? The number one reason why we would have an LLC is for asset protection. This will always remain the number one reason. It won't be number 2, it won't be number 3, it won't be number 5. It will always be the number one reason. The reason why asset protection will always be the number one reason is because in the event that something happens to the sole proprietor, the sole proprietor has a personal bank account, possibly, where they're receiving the money, or a business bank account that's underneath their name. Because at the end of the day, the person that's a sole proprietor is using their social security number, which means that they may also have IRAs and their children's bank accounts that could also be caught up in a situation when they're sued. And that leads me to today's sponsor, BetterLegal. If you guys haven't already checked out BetterLegal, I'd love for you to do so today. BetterLegal is an all-in-one entity creation platform that will allow for you to establish your LLC, S corporation, or C corporation in all 50 states. Part of the reason why I'm a big fan of using BetterLegal is because BetterLegal makes everything about setting up an entity extremely effortless. There's a lot of questions that come on when you're thinking about starting a new business, such as where should you establish your registered agent? How do you know if you're getting your EIN number? Are you sure if you should have a virtual address? All of these questions are answered on BetterLegal's platform. Not to mention, you don't have to wait 4 to 6 weeks to receive all your paperwork to start transacting with your business. BetterLegal gets paperwork back to you as soon as 48 hours. And I've had tons of clients who have used BetterLegal to set up not only their first business, but multiple businesses. By using my link below, you'll be able to get $100 off setting up your entity, and you'll be able to get started on these services right away. If you have any questions using BetterLegal, feel free to leave me comments below. I look forward to catching up with you on your journey to success. Now back to this video. If you're ever sued by another client or another business owner or by another taxpayer, then all of the debts get called from the business. But your business is attached to your social security number, which has your personal bank accounts, your business bank account, your IRAs, maybe your children's bank accounts. That's really scary. And a lot of business owners that you see today would be very hesitant to start their businesses knowing that they didn't have any type of separation to protect their personal assets. So the number one reason that LLCs are created is to separate our assets. We want to have our personal assets, such as our personal bank accounts and our personal IRAs, completely separated from our business bank account and our business assets. Some of the business assets that you might be thinking of might be business cars, business equipment, even recipes, right? If you're in a restaurant, all of these assets should belong to the business. And if someone were to come sue the business, they should be able to come to sue what's in the extent of the business, okay? To the extent of what's inside of the business, okay? So if I have somebody that's looking to establish asset protection, it would be hard for me to coach them on establishing a sole proprietorship. because I wouldn't really be teaching them asset protection, would I? In the event that something happens, God forbid, I know now that their personal bank accounts, their personal IRAs, anything that they own could be caught up in any type of lawsuit that they're dealing with when debts could be called for the business. But the person that establishes an LLC, it is at least protecting their personal bank accounts. They're not protecting everything that's inside the business. Anything that's inside the business can be caught up in the situation for the lawsuit. They're protecting everything that's outside of the business. So the rule here that I want you guys to remember is that an LLC gives you outside liability protection. It protects the items on the outside of the LLC. Okay? So this is the number one reason why we would have an LLC and the number one reason why we would switch from a sole proprietorship to an LLC. All right, guys, let's jump to number two. The number two reason why we would establish an LLC instead of a sole proprietorship is audit protection. No one wants to deal with an IRS audit. Believe you me, having to go through your bank account, transactions, it is an absolute nightmare. It is literally like being underneath a magnifying glass. No one wants to be underneath an audit. So the reason why business owners will establish LLCs is because LLCs actually have a lower audit risk. Sole proprietors are the number one audited business. If you establish a single member LLC, then you're still considered a sole proprietor to the government. You're considered a disregarded entity, but you do have number one, which is asset protection. You establish liability protection. The second reason why we would switch from a sole proprietorship to an LLC is for audit protection. If you're establishing a multi-member LLC or a MLLC, as we call them in my office, then you are reducing your audit risk significantly. Karlton, why do multi-member LLCs have a much more reduced audit risk than like single member LLCs and sole proprietorships? Multi-member LLCs file a 1065 tax return. Okay, a 1065 tax return is a partnership return. Partnership returns record your partnership's income and send a K1 into your 1040, which is your individual tax return, which means the government only sees one number coming from your K1, whatever income you made or whatever loss you received. So it reduces your audit risk significantly. A lot of business owners will have a relative, a spouse, just claim 1% ownership for this exact purpose. So the number two reason why we would want to have a LLC over a sole proprietorship is to reduce our audit risk. I want to fly more under the radar with the government, knowing that the government likes to go after easy wins. An easy win is a sole proprietorship business. Somebody who hasn't taken it upon themselves to at least establish liability protection, and somebody who hasn't taken it upon themselves to think about audit risk. And so that is why number two is audit risk. All right, guys, let's jump to number three. The number three reason why we would want to switch from a sole proprietorship to an LLC is for bookkeeping. The reason why I say this is because the person who is a sole proprietorship has a lot of their money coming into their personal bank accounts. It's rare that I run into sole proprietors who've taken it upon themselves to establish a business account, because they like to have money come into their personal account where they're having all their personal expenses, rather than establishing a business account and claiming only business income and business expenses. But it seems to me that when you go through the process of spending money to establish the LLC, that you're more likely to use the LLC's bank account that you went and opened after you got your fancy paperwork and your binder in the mail with your laminated name of your business on it. It's something about having the LLC established that gets business owners in the mood to want to actually use the business bank account. Whereas sole proprietors, they want everything easy. It's easy to have money just flow into your personal bank account. It's easy to just have everything come off of just one bank account card. So you don't have to have all these business bank account cards and your personal card and transfer money over. Oh my goodness. And actually operate like a real business. I'm encouraging you to stop doing that. I'm encouraging you to take it upon yourself to realize that that is exactly the easy way to lose in an audit, by intermingling all your expenses, because the person who's intermingling their expenses is going to have a hard time deciphering what's personal and what's business when it comes down to an audit. Not when it comes down to filing your tax returns, because you'll figure it out to get those tax returns done. It's hard when it comes down to an audit to prove everything. So the LLC owner doesn't want to deal with that. So they will go ahead and use the EIN number that they were given to open up a business bank account. And now all of their business income and business expenses will populate inside of that LLC's business bank account, making it extremely easy to do bookkeeping, providing you with a profit and loss statement on a month-to-month basis. The number 3 reason why we should switch from a sole proprietorship to an LLC is because it is going to make your bookkeeping so much easier, and you will use your business bank account. All right, guys, we're starting to get heated up. Let's jump to number 4. The number 4 reason why we would switch from a sole proprietorship to an LLC is for tax savings. After you are doing $8,000 a month in profit, this means after all expenses, you can now use Form 2553 and send this to the IRS to elect to tax yourself as an S-CORP. And now you can take payroll as a tax deduction, saving you money on taxes. The sole proprietorship does not get to take a tax deduction for pulling money out of their bank account. Karlton, what do you mean? You don't get to take a tax deduction when you pull money out of your bank account to pay yourself. Why not? I'm an employee of my own business. No, you're not. You're a sole proprietor. The government just views you as just an owner of the business. You're not viewed as an employee. You're just an owner of the business. Well, then I'll establish the LLC then. That's great. You can establish the LLC, but then now you're just a member underneath the business. Government still doesn't view you as an employee yet. So you still don't get to take a tax deduction when you pull money out of the business yet. Okay, then so why do I need to be an S-CORP? Because the S-CORP does allow for you to take a tax deduction when you decide to pull money out of the business. So when does it make sense to do that? Well, it doesn't make sense if you don't have profit yet, because you need to have enough money in profit to justify you being on payroll and actually cutting yourself a salary, because now you become a W-2 employee underneath your business. The sole proprietorship is probably really confused right now. Why would I want to become a W-2 employee underneath my own business? Like, what is all this going on? And that's because the sole proprietorship has not solved self-employment tax. Self-employment tax is 15.3%. That is not federal taxes. That's not IRS taxes. That's not state taxes. That's just your self-employment tax. Once you figured out what that is, you're going to want to try to figure out, how do I mitigate this one? Because everyone gets to pay federal taxes. Okay. Everyone's paying state taxes. Okay. Not everyone's paying this whole 15.3% thing. So how can I reduce this? And that's when you start to look at the S-CORP. That's when you start to look at making yourself an employee underneath your own business. The number 4 reason why we want to switch from a sole proprietorship to an LLC is because we want to be able to save money on taxes by transitioning to an S corporation. All right, guys, we're going to jump to number 5. The number 5 reason why you would want to transition from a sole proprietorship to an LLC is to establish business credit. You see, business owners who are looking to leverage business credit, and I'm talking about really good opportunities, 0% interest credit, because those options are out there. I have tons of clients who are getting 0% interest credit in the hundreds of thousands. How nice would it be to be able to have $150,000, $200,000 at 0% interest for 12 months so you can grow your business and start transacting? But there's a lot of business owners who haven't taken it upon themselves to establish an LLC or register that LLC with a credit bureau like Experian done in Bradstreet. They have no idea that what a Paydex score is or how to even leverage business credit. So they're left on the sidelines having to save money and working the hard way, whether it's other people who are taking leverage and learning about how to use business credit and use the LLC to their advantage. Don't be the business owner that was always on the sidelines. Be the business owner that decided to jump into the game. Sometimes that requires you to stay after hours to learn what the other students are doing. And that is the key to being a successful business owner. I really hope that you found a lot of value in this video, and I really hope that you take the opportunity to look into BetterLegal to set up your new LLC. If you're somebody that's looking to save more on taxes, visit the link below to download my tax-free living bundle. It'll give you some of the advanced tax strategies that I leverage that'll help you save money on taxes. I look forward to seeing you guys on the next video. Thank you so much.